Welcome back to Shadow to Soul. Today's episode goes a lot deeper than the last ones. This is the episode where healing stopped being conceptual and became embodied. It's the story of parts of my childhood that I'd learned to survive by detaching from and leaving them behind, and how regression therapy helped me understand why and to bring those parts safely back with compassion. If you've ever felt like you don't fully belong in your own body, or like parts of your life feel fragmented or disconnected, then this episode is for you. Today's episode includes themes of childhood trauma, dissociation, and not wanting to be alive. Please listen in a way that feels safest for you. Excited for this second session, all the nerves had gone. I knew the process wasn't about losing control. It was about trusting it and surrendering to it. So at this next appointment, I had no reservations. I was still holding on to that feeling of peace and love, that version of me that existed beyond anxiety, beyond pain, beyond depression, beyond survival. I didn't yet know how to live from that place, but I knew it existed. Almost immediately after going into a trance, I was taken to a moment when I was 10 years old, and I felt terrified. My heart was racing, my hands were shaking, my body was tense. There was a presence that was so frightening and felt so overwhelming. What appeared at first as something monstrous to my 10-year-old self slowly revealed itself to be something else entirely. It wasn't a monster, it was a man whom I did not recognize. A man who was deeply unhappy, unloved, lost, and who didn't know he was no longer alive. Through the lens of adulthood, I learned something powerful. This energy had attached itself to me during a moment of deep vulnerability, when I was feeling deeply unloved, unwanted, lost, and I desperately didn't want to be alive anymore. As a child, the emotional pain was unbearable, and the only way for that child part of me to cope is for that part of my consciousness that was in pain to leave my body. And so that part of my consciousness dissociated and went somewhere it felt safe. But with this dissociation, a void was created. And no void within the consciousness can remain so. It created the space for that energy to enter. This is something that regression teaches beautifully. No energy can enter your field unless there is space for it. By helping this lost soul find peace, he left my auric space. Part of the process is also to understand the impact of having that energy presence in my life. I recognized his energy created deep bouts of unhappiness that came after the times that I was happy. This was something that I had lived with and thought was normal for as long as I can remember. His energy could not sustain in my auric space when I was happy. But because there was always an underlying sadness in my life, his energy was able to take over. From the moment he left my auric space, I felt an immense sense of peace. And since then, I have not had a single bout of that kind of depression again. It was the most liberating experience I have ever had. From there, my consciousness moved to another moment when I was 14 years old. Once again, I did not want to be alive. Something had happened in school. It was a moment of betrayal and isolation. I saw myself at home, quietly taking a large bottle of pills from the kitchen cupboard. I stood in the bathroom, holding some pills in my hand, looking at myself in the mirror. And as I was watching myself, I would tell myself, a minute has passed and it's no worse. More time has passed and it's no worse. And I did that for about half an hour, trying to convince myself to put those pills down, put them back. Eventually, I put the pills back. I went back out into the kitchen, put the bottle back into the cupboard. My mom, who'd been there in the kitchen the whole time, didn't notice this, didn't notice that I had taken those pills out of the cupboard and put them back. After I put them back, I told her I'm going for a walk, and I went outside. Walking surrounded by nature had always been my comfort. I would spend hours creating alternate realities in my mind, pretending I was living a different life. I stayed out for about 3 hours, ignoring my mom's calls for dinner, until I felt strong enough to go back home, to continue surviving. The realization and understanding that came in the process of healing this part of me was that I'd been carrying an emotional burden that did not belong to me. It belonged to the people around me. Their sadness, their helplessness, their despair, which significantly amplified my own emotional pain. One of the things that we do in regression therapy is an energy exchange. And at this point, I was able to return all of those feelings that did not belong to me and give them back to whoever they belong to, and to take back what was mine. I was able to reclaim my own vitality, my own worth, my own life force. These were resources that I had lost in the process. The relief was immediate. As soon as this was acknowledged, the energy exchange was done, the understanding was there, the acceptance was there. The relief was immediate. It felt like an immense weight that I didn't know I was carrying had been lifted. Then I was a 6-year-old. This time, the emotion was anger, intense anger. But again, it wasn't mine. It belonged to my sister. She was angry, and within her own young mind, she couldn't understand why I wasn't getting injected every day, why my parents were punishing her, which made her feel and believe that I was favored, that I was loved by our parents, but she was not. And this caused her intense anger. Life was so incredibly unfair for her. And within that dynamic, my 6-year-old self felt guilt. I felt guilty for being healthy. I felt guilty for not being punished. Through guided dialogue, my adult self was able to witness both children, for there to be an understanding of what was going on. My adult self was able to help the two children understand each other. And in doing so, anger dissolved from both, the guilt lifted, and they were able to connect. And for the first time, I was able to feel a peace around a relationship that had always felt charged. This session and what those 3 parts of me taught me was dissociation within consciousness is for survival. It's a child's way of being able to cope with life when things feel too big, too painful, too unsafe. But when parts of us leave to help us deal with life, It creates a void within the consciousness that cannot stay empty. It creates an entry point for external energies to come into the aura, to attach, and then to influence. And these parts don't just come back when life is good. They are stuck outside. They need to be called back, and they will only return when it feels safe to do so. Regression therapy creates that safe space from understanding and acceptance for those parts to come back. And within those missing parts is also the resource that was lost when those parts left. And when they come back, the resource comes back. So for me, it was self-worth, my will to live, my life force, my vitality. Those were the resources that left me when those parts left. When we integrate with those missing parts of ourselves, we become whole and we can feel it. After this session, I felt fundamentally different. I felt whole, no longer broken. I had a sense of confidence and openness that I had never experienced before. And I felt some level of peace that previously I had not experienced. And it may not have been to the extent that I felt within my first session, but I felt something. I felt some kind of peace that I hadn't experienced before. Not in life, outside of a trance. This was the moment I began sharing my journey. First with my family, and then slowly with others. My mom cautioned me not to really talk about this outside of our nucleus family. She was scared that I would get judged for it and potentially be affected by it. But this was my story, and my reason for sharing it wasn't to gain any sympathy or to hurt someone. The truth was, if somebody had shared with me their experience of this, I would 100% have done regression therapy earlier. I knew that there was value in what I had to share and that others would undeniably benefit from it. Even if my story spoke of my loved ones, maybe not in the best light, but I wasn't sharing them to hurt them. I held no one responsible for whatever it was that I went through in life, no matter how old I was. I had to experience it for a reason, and my journey is my own. One of the things that my teacher said to me when I did this course was, when you love someone, you never do your second best. You will always do the best that you can with what you have, with your capacity in that moment. And I already felt that. So even though I was talking about people I loved, I knew they did only what they could do at the time. Witnessing those past moments gave me such valuable insight I would not have got otherwise. For instance, I just thought my sister hated me. It wasn't my fault that I wasn't sick, but I didn't realize that she never understood as a child, as that 18-month-old, 19-month-old. I mean, how could she have? She didn't have the cognitive ability to understand that she had something that was not caused by me or her or parents or anyone. It was unfortunate. And my parents were doing their absolute best to keep her alive out of love. But there was no way for her to understand that. And Yes, as an adult, of course she does. And as an older kid, of course she did. But the belief system of being unloved and being punished, and that I was favored or loved more, that was established long before this understanding came in. So without the insight from these sessions, I would never have known that. And I was able to make peace that otherwise would never have happened. The realization of what she was going through filled me with such compassion for her and understanding. It wasn't a rational realization, it was a deeper one. I felt it within my being. And this is what real healing does. It fundamentally changes you. It doesn't erase your story, it gives it meaning. If you're listening to this and something stirred inside you, know this: the parts of you that feel lost aren't gone. They're waiting. And when you're ready to call them, they will come home. In the next episode, I'll be sharing how trauma can live in the body and how it manifests itself, and how regression therapy revealed wounds that I didn't even know I was carrying. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Until then, from shadow to soul.